Hello everyone, Luke here, and after 2 weeks we've got Dr. Stone back in business, so business as usual now, and of course we're now officially in the final part of the story, although based on the ending of this chapter it will probably end up being the longest, as you'll soon see why, because oh boy, that ending has opened up a whole new can of worms. Okay, so this will be chapter 213. Oh my god, I can't. That ending, and they have the unlucky 13. Yeah. So unlucky for the two people that what happens at the end of this chapter is. But anyway, 213, titled Unknown Known. Just rolls right off your tongue. Anyway, we open up with a colour page, which is pretty creative. We've got Senku, Kaku, Gen, Ryusui, Frankos, Kazuki, and Suika all having a jolly old time together as Senku sort of like launches a rocket from his hand. So I guess Senku has rocket powered hands. But anyway, strange enough, Chrome isn't in that colour page for some reason. Don't know why. Anyway, the chapter opens up with from the end from last chapter where they've created the dam in Ishigami Village, and now they're all back in Ishigami Village. They're starting to use it, and we get Chrome kind of being a little bit underwhelming here, where he goes, "Water is bad," and yeah, water is bad, Chrome, but is it really that exciting to get over? I mean, I guess because you've never seen a dam before, but seriously, it's still just water. Anyway, Ukyo says, can you believe we've got a dam now and a hydroelectric power plant? No, I can't believe it. I still can't believe that Ruri and everyone did all of that from their perspective, must have been only about, about a year and a half, but, yeah. Yep, they did it, so gotta give props to them. Anyway, Senku goes on to say that gotta be grateful to Ruri and the villagers for working so hard while we were away. For such a massive mission, we need as many able workers as we can get. As we've seen, reviving someone who has a mark similar to Stanley, in that they have it all over their face. It's just the difference is that it forms kind of like a triangle arrow shape. And also they have the same deal with Gen's hair in the sense that if you remember when in the anime where they had that book of Gen that was shown, which I don't think was in the manga. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was not in the manga. Like I've checked like dozen times and I couldn't find it. But anyway, the book that Taiju was showing Senku had Gen's face on it, and his hair was all darkened. So I guess the petrification beam, of the fire fluid can dye your hair white. Guessing that's what they're going for. But anyway, as other people are being revived, and they're just like in a bit of shock, like what is going on? Gen being Gen is like, yes, allow me to do story time with Gen, which I did at the beginning of season 2 of Dr. Stone. So everyone sit down, we're going to talk about the story. And yeah, greetings new revivees of Japan. Did you ever catch me on TV? If so, many thanks. If not, screw you. I'm going to tell you the story anyway. But he explains to them all what's been going on, how they have the Y-Man on the moon, how they're building a rocket to space to actually get to confront the Y-Man about what's going on, and we see him have a little Senku puppet as well, as we have Chelsea Ryusui explaining, as expected of a jaw-dropping performance, such a large population increase demands a way to win them over. And yeah, I'd be probably won over by this, but still I'd be like question like, how are we going to do a rocket in the stone world? I think that would be my biggest question. But and of course Ryusui is like, as soon as he sees this entertainment, he's like, I desire entertainment media. And of course Sai, understanding his brother, understands it completely well, because he's the kind of guy, Sai, who's like, all work and no play makes Si a dull guy. As he explains that he had enjoyable diversions when he was at university delving in the maths because life got too hard for him. So like video games were the thing that kept him going and kept him sane. Which yeah, I don't blame you. You need something to kind of like chill out and relax and get yourself like, okay, I'm relaxed, I'm fresh, getting back to work now. You need something like that in the world because otherwise your brain just explodes. Okay, so continuing on, Ryusui says, but he who controls the media effectively owns the world. Am I wrong? No, you're not wrong because that's pretty much how the world operates now. Like whoever controls the media controls the entire world. Because as we all know, communication is the vital key to anything, whether it's war or just being able to talk with people from around the world. Communication is vital, and that's basically what the media is. It's just communicating with others all around the world. He explains that the old world had broadcast TV, a certain search engine, and a certain streaming service. You guys all know the ones. And now our new world has once again reached that stage as we see him having like the creepiest face, which makes people question if him and Sai are actually brothers because they couldn't be any more different. And Pie Jams did bring up a good point here. Ryusui's this is in the Discord server. Ryusui's last arc took control of the economy, and now he wants the media. With heroes like these, who needs villains? Well, who needs villains? Well, the only thing we have left is Y-Man, so I guess we need Y-Man. We continue on. That was a big pause there, but just go with it. We continue on with them creating television, and I love the way Katsuki calls this because it goes, finished, but is this what you call media? Yeah, I just love the way he says that. As we get an explanation of how it actually works, where they already had the brain tubes from when they made radar, and by giving the scan lines vertical motion too, the after image can create pictures. Pretty standard stuff for actually creating TV itself. And they actually mentioned that the world's first television system was made in Japan. That's something I didn't even know. So pretty interesting fact to learn there. Like the first TV was actually made in Japan, and they're saying like, so we're basically recreating history, and Yo being Yo basically like without actually thinking things through is it's like, how many channels are we actually gonna get here? And we get a pretty funny callback to when they actually built the cell phone, when Clark brought up the fact like, oh, how is someone going to be able to hear on the other end? And Senku was like, oh yeah, we need to build another cell phone. And Senku brings up here, whoopsies, we've got no broadcasting in this world, as everyone's like, oh, come on, man. And Ukio's like, obviously you knew that while making it, and yeah, he did. Now, the thing that I'm disappointed here is that I really wish we got like more. If they were gonna like push like, okay, we're gonna bring back all forms of media. First thing we're gonna do is make a TV, but I guess we just don't have the time or space anymore to do that kind of stuff, which is a tad bit disappointing. But we make up for this by Senku saying, because we won't be watching TV shows on this thing. And then they're like, what are you talking about, Senku? And Ryusui brings up that they've got another boat scheduled to arrive today from North America to Japan. So I guess they're just making boats left, right and centre all around the world. In Core City, in Super Alloy City, in Math City. I guess they're just making boats now. I guess. But anyway, Ryusui brings up that it's a delivery that size is pretty excited about. Now we cut to where the boats are now. A little bit confused here because we see the boat, the Perseus, but we also see the boat that could potentially be the boat that Ukio and Yo came on, or it could be the boat that Taiju actually brings up, because it actually shows a crane and the other boat that was shown next to Perseus also had a crane, but I guess they just built another boat in North America and sent Taiju on it. Now, Pioneers was a bit confused here. It's like, wait, Taiju can drive a boat, but if you remember, he drove one of the motorcycles. He was one of the 6 drivers of the motorcycle, so yeah, I guess he has his driver's license now. But anyway, he brings the SAL 9000. Pretty good reference to HAL 9000, the AI villain from 2001: A Space Odyssey, which, now that I think about it, Wireman could be an AI because we're going into space to confront Wireman. Hal was confronted in space. So hey, maybe there's a connection there, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a little bit. Anyway, as we get Taiju coming back, we get him and Senku doing a fist bump, which is kind of a more development of their relationship in the series. In the beginning of the series, Taiju tried to hug Senku and he basically kicked him away. When they reunited after being separated from Ye, he was just like doing like a weird punch on the chest, but now he's actually doing a proper fist bump to Taiju. Senku is doing this and showcasing how much he does respect his best friend. Whether people like it or not, Taiju is still the best friend of the series. They go on to say how Chrome actually wants to know how much wiring is actually in this thing, and Taiju confirms that it's probably like 10,000 donuts and a few 100,000 magnets. And Gen being Gen, even though he is smart, he's not as scientifically smart as some of the other people, and he has no idea what this actually means. Before Senku gives off the statistics for what the NES components actually were, which were a 16-bit, 60 KHS CPU as the brain. For memory, they've got 129 core units with 520k ROMs and 16k RAM, basically, which I thought was going to actually take a whole lot longer, like to actually build a computer in the Stone World. I actually thought this was actually going to be really intricate and there was going to be a lot of problems along the way, but no one seemed to be at the computer. And Gen says those exact specifications are even more cryptic in terms, and they say in terms of computer power, it is on par with the NES, as we get how big the SAL 9000 actually is. Oh my god, oh my god! I can't believe I didn't pick up on this. If this is a reference to this show, I will be impressed with Dr. Stone. Okay, so slight tangent here, but there's an episode of the old children's show Recess. I can't remember the exact title of the episode. Basically, the entire school in Recess had basically a HAL 9000 computer running the school, including keeping people out, keeping people in the school, coding as well, and it was called the Cell 3000. So if this is not a reference to that episode, then it's a surefire coincidence. Like, I can't believe I didn't put that together, and I just love the fact that if that's a reference to that episode, bravo, Dr. Stone. So yeah, we have the upgraded form of the Cell 3000 from the Cell 4000, and now at the Cell 9000. It's not exactly over 9,000, but it's exactly over 8,000. Had to do the meme there. But yeah, the Cell 9000 is a massive structure which we don't know exactly where it is. It could be in the radio tower, it could be on the Perseus. Who knows where it actually is at this point. Senku says that the problem is getting main problem of all of this is getting programs to run on it, and they need to feed the puncher cards so the computer can read the patterns of the holes. And they explain that the cards will be the game's programs, and they would how they're supposed to be games with these things before we see Sai being Sai and just basically encrypting them. And he's like done already, as we see him recreate Tetris, which is pretty easy game to recreate. So it makes sense for it to be the first game to be recreated in the Stone World. Although I would have gone with Pong. I seriously would have gone with Pong. Anyway, they say that it's amazing. Even in the Stone World, they've got video games, and Sai mentions that the drop puzzle is a simple program as he gets it, and he can whip up playing more in a short order, which Ryusui compliments him on, as we see him recreate Pac-Man. And let me get up the tweet here, because they the Dr. Stone trivia did actually mention what the other games were. So we've got Tetris, we've got Pac-Man. Um, hmm, so yeah, they've got Pac-Man and a combination game of Gyros and Tempest. I've never played those games before, so I I have no idea. I have no idea how good they are, but I'm surprised that he didn't create that he didn't think like, okay, I've got the code from Dragon Quest all figured out. I'm going to recreate Dragon Quest in the Stone World. I'm surprised he never even bothered with that. Anyway, we cut to later. We cut to later night as we see many different lights, situated around Ichigan Village and around the radio towers. We see the Y-Man on the moon. I shouldn't say the Y-Man. The moon more ominously looking in the background, as we see another game created on a computer, which is Chess. Which is obvious, makes sense for Sai to do that, as it's the game that actually brought him and his brother closer together. And this is where Ryusui says, I've lost the chess AI. It is already leaps and bounds past my human intellect. Now, this is actually all of this, the fact that they mention AI here, because they mentioned that history's first human first computer chess match took place. The world champion Kasparov faced up against an AI called Deep Blue. Now, a lot of people, because they're bringing up the fact of AI and like the HAL 9000 reference with the cell, makes people think that they are actually going to go down the line of the Y-Man being an AI, probably even more advanced than the Deep Blue that was mentioned in this chat, or maybe it might be the same Deep Blue, just with a much more upgraded system in its place. But anyway, they go on to explain that during the infamous 36 move, everyone expected the AI to attack with its queen. It was all part of a trap set by Kasparov, humanity's mightiest contender, but instead Deep Blue took a weirdly long time to think and ended up moving a pawn. Kind of an interesting parallel to what happens at the end of this chapter, like with the Y-Man slowly taking its time and then making its move, because we haven't had any contact with Y-Man in quite some time, and it makes me think that it was slowly making its move, building up to what's going to happen at the end of this chapter. They go on to say that the move looked foolish at first, but only because no human, including Kasparov, had realised that brilliant move would lead to victory. Yeah, just getting eerie feelings here. And Sai continues by saying, it surpassed the human mind in that moment. Science gave race to an unknown. And this is where Ryusui says, understatement for the century, in a way, science is the greediest thing that there will ever be or ever will, that ever was or ever will be. Yeah, Y-Man is certainly proving that. Continuing on from what they said about science being the greediest thing that ever was or ever will be, they mentioned that the Y-Man brought about as well the petrification device that forbidden power, as we cut to them actually making a vacuum tube for the Medusa. As Senku explains, we know it will stop working if it deteriorates too much. This should slow down the gradual decay process. Yeah. Not sure about that, Senku, because you have the worst look in the world. But anyway, we see it being sealed away as we see Ukyo looking ever so shifty as he messes about with the seal that the Medusa is in. Before we cut over to Yo and Gen actually debating how far from the case could you still activate that nasty little nasty little thing by shouting, as Gen says it's impossible even at this distance. And the Dr. Stone trivia mentioned that in space no one can hear you scream, so and they can't, and it seems that the Medusa can't pick up sound from a vacuum tube. So what happens here with the Medusa actually crackling, rattling and snapping, and Gen and Yo getting freaked out by this and saying, you heard that too, right? Yanks, we better take a look. Yeah, hang on, the lock, that old familiar click. but how nobody said a thing as we get another shot of the moon and the radio tower before we get what looks like an explosion but might not necessarily be an explosion, before we see Gen and Yo being petrified, with Yo's statue breaking apart and everyone looking shocked and all that, and that's where the chapter ends. So, oh boy, now, so many questions here. So many questions here. Like, for example, if the Medusa can't pick up sound in the infected tube, how did it go off? Like, somebody must have tampered with that, and people are obviously suspecting Ukyo because he's the only wise commander who hasn't really expressed his thoughts about the whole going to the moon mission and leaving people to die. So maybe he was tampering with it to kind of like make it so that they couldn't possibly go to the moon and sacrifice themselves. He might have been doing that for a noble good, but the looks on his face makes you think like he doesn't want to do this, but if he has to play the role of the villain, then so be it. And that would be quite interesting to lead to kind of like the civil war that people are worrying about, because again, that Medusa, that's going to be like thought of by somebody wanting to be so greedy that they're going to want it for themselves. And we know what happened when somebody wanted it for themselves in the case of Ibarra. We all know what happened with Ibarra. Yeah, no one wants to go back there talking about just the implications of what Ibarra was doing to the women on Treasure Island. But anyway, that's only the tip of the iceberg. The second iceberg is, was that an explosion? Because it was obviously a petrification beam. No one can deny that. No one can deny that. But it seemed to be very much different from the regular petrification beams. Like, it was like exploding outwards rather than just being like a bit like, I don't know what the sound of the petrification beam will actually be when we actually do get the Medusa, but some people are actually bringing up the theory of like permanent petrification, like this could cause permanent petrification on Twitter, including Board Perseus. So that he kind of had that idea floating around it himself. But again, I'm kind of in a bit of a two-way mindset about that. Like, it'll be an interesting thought, but I can't see Gen and Yo, Gen particularly, being permanently petrified and permanently taken out of the story. I can't see that happening, especially since he was probably the most popular character in the series in the last popularity poll. Can't see that happening. Now, the big question for me is the Medusa destroyed? Because we know the Medusa isn't invincible. We know the Medusa can be destroyed, as we saw when Stanley took a shot at it and it cracked. We know it can be destroyed. That is a complete possibility. And the other, don't know, just felt something on my back there. Weird. Anyway, we know that the Medusas that fell from the sky and Treasure Island, they were all destroyed except for the one. So we know they can be destroyed. And this may raise the question of like, will they actually find a way to actually rebuild the Medusa from scratch? Because now, if it is destroyed and all the parts are scared about, they might actually have more of an opportunity to actually tinker with this and find out all the secrets of the Medusa. Because we only really know like one particular function of it, is that it has a battery and it's a diamond battery, and it was made with a 3D printer. Like, the Medusas were made with 3D printers, but but I think this will be the case of like going under a microscope and looking at every single little component of the Medusa to try and figure out what this thing actually is. Because aside from those various little things, we have no idea where this technology came from, what it was originally, how it came about, how did Wyman come up with this, why the shape, why the shape itself, why did he come up with that shape? That remains to be. Now, people are saying like, oh, there's no way they're going to do that because that's beyond 21st century technology. But if you remember, in an interview, Inagaki said that eventually Senku is going to create something that is beyond even what we have in this day and age, and this might actually be the thing that he was actually alluding to. Now, again, that's all just speculation on my part. I don't know where this is going to go, but one thing's for certain is that basically in this chapter, we are not going to the moon anytime soon because this is just adding another wrench into the arsenal, and it makes sense because the series was just going way too easy for them. So now this is the chance for them to actually like, okay, we can slow down now. We know we're in the final part, so we can obviously take our time with whatever we want to do now, because a lot of final parts or final arcs in series do take a really long time to get through. Like Bleach, for example, Naruto. I guess you could count Chainsaw Man Part 1 as being like one particular arc, but that went on for quite some time, went on for 97 chapters. So again, like I said, if this arc goes on for that amount, I'd be perfectly happy with that because it will get into the 300 marks. But safe to say, we won't be going to the moon anytime soon because this has just been added, and plus we still need to build the frigging rocket itself because Dot Zero is only working on the rocket engine at the moment, and we haven't even got him back yet. We've got Taiju and the computer, but now we need him and the rocket engine, and this is just going to add more to the delays of actually building the rocket and going to space. And again, it might lead to the conversation of Chrome and Suika talking to Senku about this in the upcoming chapter, that may lead to the Civil War. And plus, we still need to figure out if this is actually going to be connected to the mysterious light that was in Ishigami Village at the end of the South America after the Second Worldwide Petrification. So all of that is still to come here. But anyway, that's all I need to see on this chapter. Pretty standard stuff for Dr. Stone that ended on a massive, like, big, shocking moment. So what remains to be seen about the series from this point forward, who knows? But one thing's for sure, Dr. Stone certainly thinking outside the box of how to we've got the final arc now. All we need to know is like, how can we expand on this and make it as epic as possible? Well, that is one way to start off the arc. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.